The Occoquan Radio Podcast is a private production and is not affiliated with the town of Occoquan. Opinions expressed on the podcast are solely those of its host and guests. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May 18th, 2025 episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Ernie Porta, bringing you 10 to 15 minutes every week of irregular, unscheduled updates on things Occoquan and beyond. This week on the podcast, we'll discuss the upcoming town council meeting, Meadow Cemetery, address some common confusion about cemeteries, and close by reviewing upcoming activities in town. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoy this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. At its meeting on Tuesday, May 20th, the Occoquan Town Council will hold a public hearing on the proposed tax rates for fiscal year 2026. A public hearing was already held at the May 6th meeting on the town's proposed FY 2026 budget. It's anticipated that both the budget and tax rates will be voted upon at the meeting on May 20th. The agenda for the meeting on May 20th also includes consideration of two ordinance changes. One would shorten the appeal period for certain short-term recurring zoning offenses. The other would levy a tax on cigarette sales in the town. Currently, cigarettes are not sold in town, but a cigarette tax is a common levy in the jurisdictions surrounding Occoquan, and this ordinance would bring the town into line with those other jurisdictions in the event anyone ever chooses to offer retail sales of cigarettes in town. Finally, at the meeting on the 20th, the Town Council will discuss various items in the Planning Commission's report for calendar year 2024. Last in town business this episode, I want to congratulate the winners of the opening Trivia Night in Rivermill Park of the season, which took place on Friday, May 16th. We had a great turnout despite the weather threats. The winning team was the Quizzards, regulars at Trivia Night, and they led through most of the evening, but others were within a point or two going into the last round. The theme for the night was Pop Culture Palooza, and one of the easier questions from the category Scene Stealers was, quote, "In Jaws, what famous line does Chief Brody say when he first sees the size of the shark?" End quote. The answer, and one of the greatest lines in movie history, quote, "You're gonna need a bigger boat," end quote. Congratulations to Quizzards, and thanks to everyone for coming out. We appreciate all of you. Our next trivia night is on Friday, June 20th. We hope you can make it. In this week's history segment, I want to offer thanks to our VFW Post 7916, who recently took on the task of helping clean the Meadow Cemetery, an historic cemetery on private property just outside of town boundaries off Poplar Lane. Occoquan Historical Society board member Dolores Elder wrote about the cemetery in the fall 2017 issue of the Society's newsletter. She writes, "In the Millhouse Museum collection is an old postcard with the caption, 'Greetings from Occoquan, Virginia.' The picture on the postcard, taken from the south side of the Occoquan River, shows sheep grazing in a meadow and the silhouette of the hillside at what is now Occoquan Regional Park on the north bank of the river. According to Dolores, oral history from several sources tells us that local residents referred to that area as the Meadows, hence the name Meadow Cemetery." In her 2017 article, Dolores notes that Workers' Progress Administration Report number 294, created by Susan Morton in 1937, refers to it as the Old Cemetery. The familiar name of the Meadows passed into history as the cemetery fell into disuse, and the area was developed around the 1950s. Surrounded by private property and bordered by Poplar Lane and Route 123, the cemetery appeared to be forgotten until an individual named Carol Rhymes took interest in the project. Carol's great-great-grandmother, Catherine Charlotte Caldwell Davis, was buried in the Meadow Cemetery in 1872. Carol and family paid to have the area surveyed and cleared, and Boy Scouts put a path into the cemetery. A lengthy tribute in the Manassas Journal from December 3, 1915, on one Miss Virginia Duty, mentions the cemetery. It begins, quote, "The passing away of Miss Virginia Duty at Occoquan, VA, on Thursday morning, November 18th, removed from the community the eldest and one of the most beloved and highly esteemed citizens of the village, where she had lived for nearly 85 years, and where, from her earliest girlhood, she had wielded an unwavering and highly effectual influence for good." End quote. The penultimate paragraph of the lengthy tribute reads, quote, "Her funeral services were conducted by the Reverend Mr. Bibbings at the M.E. Church at Occoquan, Virginia, of which she had been a member since early girlhood. Her remains were laid to rest in the Meadow Cemetery beside her parents and brothers, amidst bowers of beautiful flowers which she loved so well." End quote. The church mentioned, of course, was the one on Commerce Street behind and diagonal to the current town hall, and which burned in a fire less than a year after Ms. Duty passed away, ultimately being replaced by the church that is now the town hall. My friend David Cuff, the president of the 501c3 nonprofit Historic Prince William, has also done work on the cemetery and is one of the area's foremost experts on county cemeteries. Thanks in part to Dave's efforts over the years, you can see a clickable map of historic cemeteries in Prince William County on the site of Historic Prince William at www.historicprincewilliam.org. Again, that's www.historicprincewilliam.org. Once again, I want to thank VFW Post 7916 for helping maintain an important part of our local history. That's the intro sound for our Rumor Mill Shredder segment. This is where we pay homage to the fact that while for much of its history Occoquan was a prosperous mill town, the only mill in operation today is the Rumor Mill. Here we take on urban legends, myths, rumors, or other similar topics that need straightening out. Since we just had a story on the Meadow Cemetery, I'm going to tackle a common misconception about cemeteries in Virginia. Many cemeteries are on private property and are privately owned. As a result, many think they cannot be accessed. In fact, it's quite common for both the owners of private cemeteries as well as descendants of those buried there to be confused about rights and obligations. In Virginia, property owners that happen to have a private cemetery on their land have no obligation to maintain it. They can, in short, let it go to seed and fall into disrepair. Virginia law does provide, however, that not just people who own plots in a cemetery, but those descended from individuals buried there, as well as those doing legitimate genealogical research, must be permitted access by the owner during reasonable hours and with reasonable notice. I actually wrote an article on this subject that was published in the December 2023 issue of Virginia Lawyer for those who are interested in learning more. As always, we'll close the episode with upcoming events in town. First, as I did last week, I want to take note that tickets are on sale for the very popular 17th Annual Duck Splash Race, which will take place on Sunday, June 8th during the town's Riverfest and Craft Show. For $5, you can adopt a numbered rubber duck and watch on June 8th as hundreds of such ducks are dropped from the Route 123 bridge and raced to a predetermined finish line. First place receives $500, second through fifth places receive $100 each, and 6th through 10th places receive $20 each. You do not need to be present to win, and we keep pulling ducks out of the river until all prizes are awarded. For more information and to adopt a duck, go to www.occoquanfestivals.com/ducksplash. Again, that's www.occoquanfestivals.com/ducksplash. On Thursday, May 22nd at 7 p.m., Town Hall will host part of the Prince William Lecture Series co-sponsored by the county's Historic Preservation Division and the 501c3 nonprofits Historic Prince William and the Prince William Historic Preservation Foundation. The lecture on Thursday is entitled Northern Virginia Luminaries. The speaker, journalist Joe Motherell, will discuss a number of famous Virginians from Northern Virginia, including General George C. Marshall, Roger Mudd, and Geraldine Brooks. The lecture is free and no registration is necessary. On Friday, May 23rd at 11 a.m., there will be a ribbon cutting for the opening of Leaf and Petal at its new location, 204 Washington Street. For more information on these and other activities in Occoquan, go to www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. Again, that's www.visitoccoquanva.com/events. That brings us to the end of this episode of the Occoquan Radio Podcast. Make sure you don't miss an episode by searching for us on the podcasting app of your choice and hitting the subscribe button. I'm your host, Ernie Porta. Thank you for listening.